Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you're watching or listening. My name is Caleb Glick. I'm a certified paralegal here in the great state of Texas with the Calhoun School of Law to bring you a lot of information plenty of bad folks would rather you not have. Today we're going to be providing another installation into our The Federalist Papers series going on number 13. If you haven't gone back and watched 1 through 12, I would encourage you to do so, because by the end of this series, you're going to see how they all culminate into providing a better understanding of the U.S. Constitution. And of course, understanding the U.S. Constitution is going to be absolutely quintessential in your defense or in combating this ever-growing hostile lawfare state. Today we're going to be getting on to number 13, but before we do, I'm excited to announce I've published my first novel titled Lawfare, Abolish the American Bar Association. If you're curious about the foundational reasons for the Calhoun School of Law, as well as who the deep state actually is, go ahead and pick up a copy of the novel, as it explains in great detail how the titular organization, the American Bar Association, best fits that title, rather than these other agencies or entities that we tend to correlate with being the deep state. So if you'd like to have either of those questions answered, go ahead and pick up a copy of the novel today off of Amazon. It's available in digital, paperback, or hardcover. Excellent. So let's go ahead and jump over to the Federalist Papers without further ado, without further rabbit hole chasing. Now, if you'd like to get your own digital copy, which I would encourage you to do, in addition to getting a paper copy, I am using the Federalist Papers Project.org's copy, but there are multiple institutions that you can get a copy from, as well as the paper copy. Multiple institutions provide compilations of the Federalist Papers, and while you're at it, a future series is coming on the Anti-Federalist Papers. I would recommend you getting a hold of a digital and paper copy of those, as well as those working in tandem with the Federalist Papers really give you a holistic understanding of the U.S. Constitution. And having that holistic understanding is actually one of the things that the late and great Justice Antonin Scalia and many individuals who precede and succeed him have detailed to be a deficient aspect of the modern legal education system. So this is very beneficial and supplementary information, by no means necessary, but will play greatly to your benefit if you understand it. Now, with this format, in the first 1 through 4, 1 through 5 lectures in this series, I would provide additional information, maybe some historical context, further articulation, things like that. I would interject more often, but because I want to give this information to you succinctly, so that way we can get more into practical information like filing lawsuits, drafting, and things like that, I'm going to interject less often, just provide you the information basically verbatim. However, if you prefer the original format, I can go back to that as well. Excellent. So now let's get on to actual Federalist 13, which is titled Advantage of the Union in Respect to Economy in Government, written by Alexander Hamilton in the Independent Journal on Wednesday, November 28th, 1787. So remember, these papers were discussing the discussion surrounding the ratification of the U.S. Constitution. The Federalists were in favor. The Federalists who wrote these papers were John Jay, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison. And the Anti-Federalists were opposed to the U.S. Constitution. And there are a slew of authors that wrote in the Anti-Federalist Papers, including Patrick Henry. I think Thomas Jefferson wrote a couple. You have pseudonymed individuals like Cato. Many individuals. I think George Mason, if I remember correctly, wrote a couple of Anti-Federalist papers. Reading both the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers will be greatly to your benefit, which is why we're going to be doing a series on both. So to the people of the state of New York, they're going to be addressing them through the majority of these papers, if not all of them. I can't remember at this moment. To the people of the state of New York, but because they are discussing the ratification of the U.S. Constitution, they were also dispersed to the other 12 states when considering whether or not to ratify the U.S. Constitution. So they address it to the people of the state of New York, but realistically, multiple other states, and the people of those states read these papers. So Hamilton says, to the people of the state of New York, as connected with the subject of revenue, we may with propriety consider that of economy. The money saved from one object may be usefully applied to another, and there will be so much government, so much the less to be drawn from the pockets of the people. If the states are united under one government, there will be but one national civil list to support. If they are divided into several confederacies, there will be as many different national civil lists to be provided for, and each of them, as to the principal departments, coextensive with that which would be necessary for a government of the whole. The entire separation of the states into 13 unconnected sovereignties is a project too extravagant and too replete with danger to have many advocates. Do you remember Hamilton and Jay were more in favor of prioritizing safety and security than life or liberty? So they were in the minority when it came to that regard, which is why a lot of the principles they espouse are holistically contradictory to the rest of the founders' principles, as well as the principles that we uphold today, like life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, in the face of all else. Security is not number one priority. The ideas of men who speculate upon the dismemberment of the empire seem generally turned toward three confederacies, one consisting of the four northern, another of the four middle, and a third of the 5 southern states. There is little probability that there would be a greater number. According to this distribution, each confederacy would comprise an extent of territory larger than that of the Kingdom of Great Britain. No well-informed man will suppose that the affairs of such a confederacy can be properly regulated by a government less comprehensive in its organs or institutions than that which has been proposed by the convention. How presumptuous. He does that all the time. When the dimensions of a state attain to a certain magnitude, it requires the same energy of government and the same forms of administration which are requisite in one of much greater extent. This idea and the same forms of administration... Convention, requisite of a much greater extent. This idea admits not of precise demonstration, because there is no rule by which we can measure the momentum of civil power necessary to the government of any given number of individuals. But when we consider that the island of Britain, nearly commensurate with each of the supposed confederacies, contains about 8 millions of people, and when we reflect upon the degree of authority required to direct the passions of so large a society to the public good, we shall see no reason to doubt that the like proportion of power would be sufficient to perform the same task in a society far more numerous. Civil power, properly organized and exerted, is capable of diffusing its force to a very great extent, and can in a manner reproduce itself in every part of a great empire by a judicious arrangement of subordinate institutions. The supposition that each confederacy into which the states would be likely to be divided would require a government lot less comprehensive than the one proposed will be strengthened by another supposition, more probable than that which presents us with 3 confederacies as the alternative to a general union. If we attend carefully to geographical and commercial considerations in conjunction with the habits and prejudices of the different states, we shall be led to conclude that in case of disunion, they will most naturally league themselves under 2 governments. The 4 eastern states, from all the causes that form the links of national sympathy and connection, may with certainty be expected to unite. New York, situated as she is, would never be unwise enough to oppose a feeble and unsupported flank to the weight of that confederacy. There are no other obvious reasons that would facilitate her accession to it. New Jersey is too small a state to think of being a frontier in opposition to this still more powerful combination, nor do there appear to be any obstacles to her admission into it. Even Pennsylvania would have strong inducements to join the Northern League. An active foreign commerce on the basis of her navigation is her true policy and coincides with the opinions and dispositions of her citizens. The more southern states, from various circumstances, may not think themselves much interested in the encouragement of navigation. They may prefer a system which would give unlimited scope to all nations to be the carriers as well as the purchasers of their commodities. Pennsylvania may not choose to confound her interests in a connection so adverse to her policy. As she must at all events be a frontier, she may deem it most consistent with her safety to have her exposed side turned towards the weaker power of the southern rather than towards the stronger power of the northern confederacy. This would give her the fairest chance to avoid being the Flanders of America. Whatever may be the determination of Pennsylvania, if the Northern Confederacy includes New Jersey, there is no likelihood of more than one confederacy to the south of that state. Excuse me. Nothing can be more evident than that the 13 states will be able to support a national government better than 1/2 or 1/3 or any number less than the whole. This reflection must have great weight in obviating that objection to the proposed plan which is founded on the principle of expense, an objection, however, which, when we come to take a nearer view of it, will appear in every light to stand on mistaken ground. If in addition to the consideration of a plurality of civil lists, we take into view the number of persons who must necessarily be employed, goodness gracious, who must necessarily be employed to guard the inland communication between the different confederacies against illicit trade, and who in time will infallibly spring up out of the necessities of revenue, and if we also take into view the military establishments which it has been shown would unavoidably result from the jealousies and conflicts of the several nations into which the states would be divided, we shall clearly discover that a separation would be not less injurious to the economy than to the tranquility, commerce, revenue, and liberty of every part. Good deal. So a little bit of a shorter Federalist paper today. I hope you enjoy that break from the 25-minute lectures. If you have any questions about number 13, about what Mr. Hamilton is posing there, please post them in the comments. If you have a topic you'd like me to cover in a future lecture, please post them about that topic in the comments, because the entire purpose for the Calhoun School of Law and these lectures being posted for free on rumble.com is your benefit, and I would rather serve that purpose exceptionally rather than insufficiently. So again, if you have any questions about this topic or a topic you'd like me to cover in a future lecture, please post about them in the comments. Excellent. So my name is Caleb Glick. I'm a certified paralegal here in the great state of Texas with the Calhoun School of Law to bring you a lot of information plenty of bad folks would rather you not have. Please, while going through these lectures 1 through 12 and including this one, remember, even if it seems tedious, even if it seems meticulous and boring, knowing this information is going to be greatly beneficial to you when understanding, interpreting, reading through, and applying the U.S. Constitution, because it's not a matter of if, but when this ever-growing hostile lawfare state comes to harass you, your family, or your property, that I want you to be thoroughly learned in information like this, thoroughly learned in the U.S. Constitution, so that you can effectively fend off and defend against any attacks or barrages laid against you, your family, or your property by that lawfare state. So one last time, if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to post them in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. I'm not too sure what the next lecture is going to be about, but I'll do my best to make it as informative and entertaining as this one, if not more so, because one last time, the entire purpose of the Calhoun School of Law in these lectures is to your benefit. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. Once again, I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and regardless of the topic of the next lecture, I bid you all farewell.